welcome to episode 4 of The Australian Runner, a show about running and everything running related. I'm Ben, and with me is Chris.
How's it going?
Alright, let's get started. In today's episode, we'll be talking about diet and nutrition. And this is a pretty big topic, so I'm sure we'll come back to it later on if we don't cover everything today. But we've just thought of some general notes that we might want to cover in this topic.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've broken up into a couple of different sections today. So we're going to talk about the general diet sort of thing, and then also what you should do before you run, during your event, and then afterwards to sort of help yourself recover. So what are your tips on a general sort of diet?
Well, really as runners, we just need to eat a really balanced diet with good quality, wholesome and fresh foods. We need lots of fruit and vegetables. We need our red meat. We need fresh rather than fried and fatty foods. That's what the main stress should be in our diet.
Yeah, so we want a lot more protein as well compared to the average person, don't we?
Yeah, runners should consume more protein than the average punter going around. That can be easily done just by making sure you eat enough red meat, milk, cheese and so forth in your diet.
Yeah, and obviously you can get stuff like the powdered protein, like protein shakes as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That you see a lot of people at the gym have.
Yep.
Because that's a really easy source, even if it doesn't taste the best. It's a pretty easy way to get your protein in.
Yeah, it's a good supplement to have if you feel like you're not getting enough protein just in your general diet.
So what does protein really help you with? It's a lot of the muscle recovery sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because every time you run, you your muscles break down slightly. Yeah, micro tears. And what the protein does is it rebuilds those muscles stronger, so next time you can run faster and further.
Yeah, so obviously if you're doing a lot more exercise, you're going to get more micro tears, so it means you need more protein to help your muscles recover. And so we've mentioned protein now, but what about carbs and fiber and fat as well? Because they're the other main parts of food that you consume.
Yeah, definitely. What you want is your low GI carbohydrates that expend or give energy over a longer period of time. We don't want those high sugary, like quick carbohydrates, because they don't really allow us to perform at our best over an extended period of time.
Yeah, like lollies, where you get the sugar hit and then you start feeling pretty bad afterwards.
Yeah, you get that dip afterwards, which is what we're trying to avoid. Fat-wise, it's alright to have some sort of fats. I mean, there's fats in some oils and avocados and things like that. Just as long as we avoid saturated fats in fatty food, so fried foods should be out or at least minimised. I mean, balance is the key aim.
Yeah. And then fibre.
Fibre keeps your insides healthy, so definitely include some of that through your diet. I mean, it's in a lot of vegetables, green vegetables, peas and the like, so you should be able to easily cover your fibre requirements. Definitely.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about what you should do just before a race, like the day of a race or your run or whatever you want to do before you exercise. So your pre-race or run routine.
Yeah, so for a meal before you go for a run, should be at least 2 hours before, probably 3 or 4 hours before. Just make sure it's got those great whole fresh foods that we just previously talked about. So fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, things like wholemeal breads, potatoes and the like. Rice is good as well. But it really depends how long before you eat to your race. Like Stephen Solomon, 400 metre runner, can't eat for 5 hours before training, otherwise he revisits that last meal on the track. So it's about finding what's right for you. I mean, sometimes it's nearly impossible to eat 5 hours before. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah. A very memorable occasion for me. I think we went out for Mother's Day and I had a huge steak and chips and I had a match of hockey. Went straight from the restaurant to the hockey field. Didn't even have any time to warm up. I reckon it was about 40 minutes after I'd absolutely demolished this huge meal that I was running around, and I felt so bad I can't even describe. So yeah, if you have really heavy foods, you might want to wait a little bit longer than 2 hours. But if your digestion or metabolism are fast enough, 2 hours or a bit less, you should probably do all right with.
Yeah, but you can always eat an apple or banana or like a light muesli bar, gels and things like right up to your event, really, because they're easy and quick to digest. You got to keep your fluids up as well
Yep,
before your
fluids
race.
are important as well. So now, what about during the race, especially for longer races? Like obviously on the track, most of the time you're not really you don't get to stop. But if you're doing longer races like 5k, 10k, they usually have sort of water stations or triathlons, that sort of thing. So what would you suggest for keeping up everything going during the race?
You don't need to, or you shouldn't need to eat or consume carbohydrates or anything until you've exercised for at least 90 minutes. So that's probably half marathon or marathon distances is the only time where you'd need to consume energy gels and the like. But drinking, probably events over half an hour, I'd say you should probably take on board liquids at some stage during the race. I mean, yeah, you're talking about the 5 and 10k races. I mean, if it's a cooler day, you can probably get away with it. But on those hot days, even a half an hour race, you should probably maybe have a couple of sips at stops along the way. But if you're properly hydrated before your race, you could potentially get away with it.
And so that leads us to recovery or post race. So what sort of fluids or food should you be having afterwards?
I mean, there's all the Gatorades, Powerades, and electrolyte drinks out there. But one of the most undervalued recovery supplements that you should get your hands around is a good old chocolate milk. Go down, get yourself a Big M, and after the race, just smash one of those back. Because the milk has a lot of protein in it, so that's good for muscle recovery. And then the chocolate syrup has a lot of energy, so it replenishes or at least picks up your stores of carbohydrates and things like that to give you that energy hit to stop you feeling fatigued after your race. So immediately after your race, in say like the half an hour afterwards, that's something that's really good to have.
Yeah, chalky milk goes down well.
Exactly, it tastes delicious as well. But then, consume a meal similar to what we were talking about before, probably within 2 hours of the race, so you can completely replenish the glycogen stores and the like.
So a decent meal like breakfast, lunch, dinner type thing, within 2 hours afterwards, but you should definitely be trying to have something small, like that's got protein or carbs in it, within 30 minutes after you finish your race.
Yeah.
So like a muesli bar, they're really good because you can just chuck them in your bag, and you can get the ones with a lot of protein in them as well. So they're really good. Okay, great. Now that we've spoken about all of that, how important actually is your diet and nutrition to making you feel good and race well?
It's becoming increasingly more and more important, and scientists are finding more how beneficial having a great diet and nutrition plan are. Team Sky has come out, the cycling outfit, and they've released several articles in the recent weeks about what they've got their riders to do. And Ian Stannard, one of their riders, unfortunately, I think, came out and said that nutrition is the new doping. He sees it as that important, and it gives them that much of an edge over the other teams.
Yeah, it's all about the incremental gains. You take the advantage wherever you can.
Yeah.
So I think that just about wraps up that portion of the show. I hope that you found that all pretty interesting and useful, and you can apply some of that. And now over to you with the news.
All right, big week as always on the track. One of the highlights of the week was the Flow Track hosted the BMR World Championships in Texas over the weekend. The Canadian Corey Belmore won the men's race in 4:49.
That is seriously moving.
Flying along. And in the women's, Caitlin Batten won the women's race in 6:29 after the original winner, Ali Grace Morgan, was disqualified for not drinking enough of her beer. She left too much in the cans, and they're like, nah, see you later. Back closer to home, down in Geelong on the weekend, the Steigen Spectacular happened, and Jordan Guzman continued his rare form, winning the mile in 4 minutes flat, a fraction ahead of Jordan Williams, and then later on in the night backed it up with a 10k win in 29:06. Absolutely stunning form for early in the season from him. Georgia Griffiths won the women's 1500 metres in 4:13 ahead of Olympian Zoe Buckman. Morgan Mitchell won the women's 200 in 23:93 ahead of Ash Whitaker, who had previously taken out the 100 metres, and then Mitchell backed it up in the 400 running 53:25, so great result from her. Vic Milers happened in Melbourne on Tuesday night, and it was a massive night with 403 entries across 32 events, big races, and with the program came some great results. Georgia Griffiths backed up from Geelong on Saturday to win the women's 800 metres in 2:04 PB, so great running from her. Anna Saul won the women's 1500 in 4:27, Tom Sullivan the men's 800 in 1:51, and the American Brian Schrader won the men's 1500 metres in 3:44, so that is a very fast race. And then heading up to New South Wales, they had the Heptathlon Championships over the weekend, and Veronica Tor took out the women's with 5,634 points. The men's decathlon, Alec Diamond won that with 6,556 points. At the same time, they had the New South Wales Club Championships. So I'm just going to highlight some impressive performances. Reece Stein in the javelin threw 75.76 metres to take out the win. Jackson Collette ran 47.18 for the men's 400 metres, an absolute up-and-coming gun. Bridie Delaney, after winning the Zatopek 10,000 metres the other week, won the women's 1,500 metres in 4:20. Rowan Browning ran 21.16 into a strong headwind in the men's 200 metres, and the world champs may be within reach with that run. Some very good and eye-catching performances. Overall, for the club championships, Sydney Uni won both the women's and men's open divisions, so great result from them. A couple of other things, Sally Pearson, back on the track, ran 11.86 with a headwind of 3.8 metres per second at a competition in Queensland. And Hamish Peacock, his first competition since Freo, and he threw 79.99 metres. And that's all from the week in athletics.
Great. Thanks for that, Chris. I think that just about wraps up the show for this week. This is our last show before Christmas, so some of these dieting tips that we've shared with you may be broken, but we hope you get back on the horse pretty soon afterwards. So thanks everyone for listening. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud or iTunes as The Australian Runner. And see you next week.
See you later.